And welcome to another episode of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast. My name's Tom Bump. Thanks for joining me, my friends. It's so good to be with you. I can't wait to dive into this episode. You know, I know after returning from Children's Pastors Conference 2025, I had a lot of conversations with ministry leaders in challenging seasons. So I wanted to dedicate this episode to any of you who are going through challenging and difficult times or seasons. I want you to know you can make it through it. And I hope this episode will be a great encouragement to you. I also know that a lot of leaders are leading alone. They don't have a real community around them. In fact, they love it when they're at conferences and you're surrounded by people, but then you go home and you feel like you've lost and you almost grieve that community that you had. Well, I want you to know that kidminplus.net is a community for you. It's really the community that you need and that honestly needs you. And we built this community for leaders. We're constantly getting feedback and new ideas of things that we want to add to it because the community is building it together. This isn't just one person dictating what content goes in there or throwing old content in there. This is brand new and this is fresh and this is being built by the community. And I love being a part of it. If you're interested in checking it out, go to KidminPlus.net. You can see the plans that we have to offer. Or if you email me at tom@tombump.com, I would love to give you a 14-day free trial where you can come in and check it out, get involved in one of our live meetups, see the connections that could be made, see the courses and training, get some free coaching while you're in there. We would love to have you come check it out. KidminPlus.net, the community that you need and that needs you. And we all need community. It's never healthy for leaders to lead alone. And having been a small church kids pastor in a small rural community, I know how valuable community is. I know how hard it is to get community. Everywhere I went, as God led me from different churches, every place I would go, my first priority, one of them, was to find some community, to find other ministry leaders that we could talk to and that we could share together and pray together and encourage one another. And so I hope this episode will be an encouragement to you. I want to share some things that I think will help you walk through and face these challenging times head on and become stronger as a leader for it. So let's dive into this episode. Here we go. So, one of the first things that we have to realize is that there's always going to be challenges. Having not enough team members, not enough support from senior leadership, running hard and going through seasons where you're constantly on the go, sacrificing some things. You're running into your what little margin you have to rest. I've had people tell me, you know, oh man, I'm just going through all this stuff and I'll be okay, but I just need to be dramatic first. Can you relate to that? Sometimes we all just need to be a little dramatic with how we feel and get it out. Um, I tell people part of the Restoring Leaders ministry that I have and that I offer leaders is an opportunity to call and to find a safe place to vent because a lot of leaders don't have that safe place just to talk and to exhale all the feelings they're struggling with or to admit, you know what, they're run down spiritually, emotionally, physically, they're just run down. And all of these challenges are hard and all of these seasons are difficult. And when you don't feel like you're supported and when you don't feel like you've got enough volunteers or ever going to have enough, you constantly feel like you're plugging the holes on a leaky wooden bucket. Well, I want to tell you that all of these challenges are not insurmountable, and none of these challenges have to take you out of ministry if you know how to face them the right way. We're all going to face them. We're all going to have hard seasons. We're all going to find ourselves in places where, maybe we're not as healthy as we think we are, or that we don't want to admit that we are. Moses, he was struggling. And he was trying to be the judge and leader and guide for all these many, many Israelites. And his father-in-law Jethro came along and saw what he was doing and said, "Hey, This isn't healthy. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for the ministry, for the leadership, for the people. You've got to recognize your limits, Moses, and you got to get some help. You got to look at a few people around you and go, who's being faithful a little, and give them some. And those that are faithful with more, give them more. But nobody should ever do ministry alone. One of the most evil lies the enemy can tell you is that nobody wants to help and that you don't have anybody who cares. I used to believe those lies myself, my friends. I used to think it's only me and my few. But listen, there are people out there in your church that if you ask them the right way, with the right purpose and the right cause and the clear expectations and a big vision, they will say yes. But sometimes we've given up hope and we're afraid we'll never get that. Or maybe we've given up on our senior leader because they haven't been as encouraging or supportive as we want them to be, or that we think they need to be. But one of the things I want to encourage you to remember is that sometimes your senior leaders are taking hits and fighting battles that you just don't know about. And maybe that's why they don't have the space or the capacity to be as supportive as they want to be. Maybe you're feeling run down and you're feeling like you just don't know if you can keep going. Well, you see, when Moses started to find people to take over and delegate responsibility to, and he focused on keeping the main thing, you know what happened? He found restoration. He found renewal. He was able to lead well. So sometimes we get in our own way, and the reason why people don't volunteer is because we don't give off the impression we really need them. So we've got to understand the challenges. You got to get clear on them. But here's the thing. I want to give you some hope and some encouragement. You see, God promises to be with us. He promises he will never forget us or forsake us. He promises that he will never leave us. He promises to be the provision. He promises that he will be the one to guide us and to give us wisdom when we ask for it. He promises that when we come to him for rest, that he will give it, that soul refilling rest. You see, one of the things that when I was walking through my valley season, God showed me was that I was never alone during those seasons. And sometimes I just needed to take my eyes off the problem and look at the problem solver. I want to challenge you that if you're in a hard season, or you find yourself in a challenging season, or you feel like, the world is against you or you're all alone, I want you to remember the one who walked on the water and said, "Peace, be still." The one who said, "I will provide all your needs." That means the volunteers, the rest, the support and encouragement. God's going to take care of all those things. Trust his heart. Trust his plan, even when the path seems unclear. Because your work is part of a greater purpose. Your calling is a higher calling. Your mission is a greater mission. So let me give you a few steps that I think you can use for leading through challenging seasons. First, it starts with creating some margin, both personally and professionally. I've said it before on this podcast. I'll say it again. No margin, no mission. If you can't find 15 minutes to sit quiet before the Lord and renew your strength, then there's a problem. You've got some priority issues. You've got some scheduling issues. You've got some discipline issues. You need to create margin. I've challenged leaders multiple times, and I'll say it again because maybe somebody, you didn't hear it the first time. Here's one of the simplest things you can do to give yourself 15 minutes of margin, or even 30 minutes of margin. Leave 15 minutes early for your office. And then before you go in to your church, take that 15 minutes and sit still. Sit quiet in your vehicle or sit in a park. But don't have any music on. Don't look at your phone. Just sit still. Give yourself 15 minutes to breathe deep, to inhale and to exhale, and to be present with yourself and with the Lord. Listen to his voice. Do that 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after your day, and I guarantee you, you'll see some new margin come into your world. The other part, the other thing that you need to be thinking about is that Jesus practiced this. Jesus practiced withdrawing to pray and to rest, which gives us the biblical principle that we must follow. It's not an option, my friends, but too many of us treat it as optional. That time to pray and to rest, to have that margin, that quiet, is the only way you're going to physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually rejuvenate yourself. To have clear reflection of what you need to be doing. So create margin. Second thing, build a support network. When you're leading in challenging times, when you feel alone, if you're not getting the support from your leaders or you feel like you don't have enough team members, you need to build a support network. You need to value highly connecting with other leaders and having a support system. I've had some people say that's why they've hired me as their coach and mentor, is because they wanted some support. They wanted someone who could say, hey, that's not crazy. I get it. Or, hey, you need to slow down and take a break. Or, hey, how about this? Here's what we can do. Or, hey, what if we did? See, a support network offers those kind of things. And if you don't have a support network, again, come check out kidminplus.net. I mean, I love Facebook groups and I love the Kid Ministry Collective Facebook group. It is a fantastic group. It's growing fast. But you know what? There's not as deep a connection. There's not a way to get to know each other. But in the Plus, you get to know each other and have that support. You can also find it locally. Just start inviting a couple of people to meet for coffee. Even if it's only 2 or 3, that's powerful. I've been blessed to be a part of some fantastic ministry networks. One of the favorite ones I've ever been in is out in Pennsylvania, in the Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania area. A shout out to all the Engaged Network people if you're listening. The Engaged Network is a group of churches that come from all different denominations who meet together for lunch at a local restaurant, and they share and they talk and they encourage each other. And it was an amazing thing that helped me. Some of them are my closest friends that understand and have watched me walk through hard seasons. They could tell you what I've been through, and I lived to tell about it. But the only way I got through it was because I had a network like them. You see, Paul had a network with Timothy and others, and he showed how mentorship and partnership strengthens and supports and sustains leaders in challenging seasons. We were not created to be alone. So create margin. Get a support network. The other part is making sure you're taking care of yourself. Stress is a terrible killer. Stress will eat you alive. Trust me, I know. I don't share this story very often, but there was a season where I was under such stress that it physically was taking its toll on me, where I was literally breaking out in hives. I would have hives running from my armpit down to my elbow, and I don't wear long sleeves most of the time, but I started wearing long sleeves because I didn't want anybody to see it, because I didn't want anybody to know the stress that I was under. I was hiding it all, and it was terrible. It cost me physically. It cost me emotionally. It cost me spiritually. If we don't take care of ourselves, How are we going to serve God with everything we have? How are we going to give him our best? My friends, some of us need to stop. And counseling and getting support is not a bad thing. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. I'll never forget when my counselor looked me in the eyes and said, "Thank you for having the courage to set up the appointment." I often say that when I'm meeting with leaders that are going through the hard seasons and restoring leaders. Restoring leaders is a ministry that doesn't charge you to talk, to give you a safe place where you can let go of those things. And I've seen people physically change when they release some of the stress that they've been holding and internalizing. It's dangerous, my friends. God doesn't want us to carry that. We come off of seasons where we've been running really hard and super busy. And if we don't stop and pause, we're going to blow up. You know, Elijah, he fought that battle up on the mountain, or God fought it for him, but he had to build the altar and he had to butcher the cow and you know, put it up there and all of those kind of things. And then he told those guys to dump, you know, get the water, and he dumped it all over the thing. It was exhausting mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And then when he heard the threat that Jezebel was going to kill him, he ran. He ran until he was exhausted and he collapsed. And you know what? That story in 1 Kings 19 reminds us that after those high mountaintop experiences, there's a need for rest. There's a need for renewal, because the enemy loves to attack when we're tired and when we're worn down. Never make decisions when you're worn out. Never make the important decisions when you're worn out and tired out or spiritually dry. It's dangerous. Elijah was told by God, eat and rest, and then I'm going to tell you where to go next. And God provided those things. God wants to provide that for you, my friends, in your challenging season. Last thing that I want to tell you about, and that I think will help you in these hard seasons, is focus on what really matters. Go back to your why. Go back to your calling, not what you do, but your calling. And then look at your priorities list and say, does everything align with my core mission and values, my calling? You see, a lot of times it's easy for us in challenging seasons to lose sight of what really matters and focus on the problems. We can be so focused on the lack of volunteers that we don't see the answer right in front of us. We get so focused on what our senior leader isn't giving us that we miss what he is or she is giving us. You see, we've got to make sure that we keep the main thing, and that we prioritize what we do and how we live accordingly. It's not a bad thing to stay in your lane, my friends. It's not a bad thing to focus on those things that only you can do. That doesn't mean you're doing less. It just means what you're doing is the best. You see, I think oftentimes how the enemy wants to get us distracted. He wants to get our eyes off of the right things so that we're so caught up in the chaos that we miss what matters. I see the enemy attacking in Nehemiah. When Nehemiah was rebuilding the wall, he had people that he knew and that, you know, that were coming to distract him, mock him, get his eyes off of what mattered, that he was supposed to rebuild the wall. But what that story in Nehemiah teaches us is that if you have focus and determination and you keep your priorities and you keep your eyes on the main thing and you refuse to be distracted from doing God's work, great things happen. So as you move forward, I want to remind you that you are here and you are leading for such a time as this, and that you can overcome the hardships. You can overcome the feelings of abandonment or lack of support or encouragement. You can overcome those things when you trust God's greater plan. You can have a lasting impact when you have faith and when you have resilience, I want to encourage you, keep pushing forward, keep pushing through, even when it's hard, because there might just be something totally amazing on the other side of that hard season that you would have never seen if you give up. All right, my friends, that's going to wrap up this episode of the Kids Ministry Collective podcast. If there's anything I can do for you, you can email me at tom@tombump.com. I would love to serve you. If you need mentorship or coaching, you need somebody to work with you to help you with mindset, with team building, volunteer recruitment, system structures. You just want to talk ministry. Check out kmccoach.net, set up a clarity call, and let's talk about how I can make that plan affordable for you. I am running out some new offers in 2025 because I want leaders to know that they can get the help they need. They can afford to get the help they need, and it's not out of their reach. But it does take an investment on your part. If you need community, go check out kidminplus.net. We would love to have you come join. Again, I'll give you a 14-day free trial if you'll just email me and say, hey, I want to know more about the Plus. I want to try it out. I would love to give you that opportunity to try it out and come join us in the Plus. If you're hurting, if you're wounded, if you're tired and you're worn out and you're ready to quit, please don't. Please go to restoringleaders.org and set up a call there. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, thanks for listening. Share it with somebody that you know. Give me some feedback. Give me some love online. I would love to hear from you. And we've got some great episodes coming up. Got some great interviews that are in the works. I can't wait to share them with you. So again, thanks for listening, my friends. Stay tuned for another episode real soon.